Hello, I just got a AWS CCP certification. I thought it might be interesting to walk through some of the different hands-on learning labs that AWS provides for you as I try to get more certifications through AWS. The next one I'm trying to go after is the solutions architect, but for right now, let's just look at some of the labs that they have here. So I go from the AWS website to learn to hands-on tutorials. And when I go here, I see a bunch of different tutorials that one could, you know, get walkthrough instructions. So this is cool because, to be honest, I feel like I've learned a lot getting that last certification, AWS certification, the CCP, certified, um, what is it? Certified Cloud Practitioner. I don't even really know what it stands for, it sounds like. Anyway, I learned a lot about the different services, but at a high level, and I don't know how to use them really. And I feel like the details still are missing. So I feel like doing labs like this might be a good way of learning more about the different services. Okay, so the one that I was hoping we would try today is this one. I kind of skipped this one because it says it's 2 hours long. Figured we could do something shorter, 35 minutes. We can time it and see how fast we can do it. Now, I have, full disclosure, I have done this before, so it should be hopefully within 35 minutes. Having said that, the first time I did it, it took longer than 35 minutes. So I think when they say 35 minutes for someone who's being guided or someone who has done this before, so they kind of know what they're doing. All right, so let's take a look at this lab. So it looks like there are multiple steps. The first step is going to be set up a Git repo. We'll talk more about these steps as we go. Develop a web app, create build project, create delivery pipeline, finalize pipeline and test. So for those of you guys that don't know much about it, let's kind of look at what it means that we'll be doing. You will first use a version control system to store your source code. Then you will learn how to create a continuous delivery pipeline that will automatically deploy your web application whenever your source code is updated. Okay, cool. So these are the different services that we'll have to know. These three services are AWS services. This one is a repository, so it allows you to store your code at a central location off of your computer, and it version controls it. Okay, so let's, oh, sorry, we're gonna need a GitHub account. So if you haven't done that, you have to create one. So you can click on this website, it will take you to GitHub. And then it's simple, you go in your email address, create a password, and maybe they ask for a few more details of information, but as long as you keep it at a minimum, it's free. And I think it should be obvious if it isn't. I only use these things as a free service rather than something that's paid for. Do my best to, at least. And same with AWS. I'm using the free tier account. So I have a AWS account. It's under the free tier. I try to avoid any type of payments. Although, having said that, some of these things are for payment. But over here, we see it's a beginner, and it says it's free tier eligible, meaning if we have a free tier account, which I have, and hopefully you do too, we can do this for free using their resources. Okay, GitHub. That's a service we'll be using, but of course it's open source, not owned by AWS. AWS Elastic Beanstalk. That's a service where you deploy code to it, and it builds the environment based off of that code for you. AWS code build, and I'm kind of being very brief when I'm talking about these things. They're pretty detailed and can do a lot of cool things. Build code or code build, that just builds your code. So it turns it from human readable code, human written code to machine code, and then code pipeline. This is going to manage the whole process. So let's take a look at what this looks like. So that's us. We're a user. We're going to commit code to some place that stores the code. In this case, it's going to be GitHub. So a Git repository. When that happens, it's going to kick off automatically a build of the code, which turns the code from human readable into machine code. We're going to add a manual approver step, so a human in the loop, to say whether or not this code should get deployed. And when it gets deployed, it's going to get deployed to Elastic Beanstalk. And hopefully we have some product at the end that we can use and kind of show off, I guess, to some degree, maybe to our whoever's around us, right? I don't think it's going to be like a big deal or a game changer as far as that, as far as, this is just a proof of concept. All these stages will be over SAW, or this code pipeline will basically oversee that this whole process works together. Okay, let's get started then. So step one, here we go, start module one. Now here, let's see what it says. In this module, you will set up a repository for your code so it can be easily accessed over the internet. In this example, we will be using GitHub, but there are other Git compatible options you can use, including AWS Code Commit. But I use GitHub. I'm not sure how you do this with AWS Code Commit. I'd say for this example, let's stick with GitHub because that's what this example uses. In one of the following modules, you will connect this hosted repo to our pipeline so that every time you push a new commit to it, your build process is started. So let's see, what are we going to accomplish? We're going to fork GitHub and create a new project of our own. So what does that mean? Well, AWS basically has already written the code for us. We're just going to go to their repository and then make a copy of the code, and it will exist in our repository after that when we fork it. That's what that means. So store code and metadata in GitHub, that's what happens after the fork, and then interact with a code repository using Git. Okay, so key concepts. Version control, that's what GitHub is, or that's what GitHub does. It's a system for storing source code and tracking any changes to it. Changes are stored as versions, so a developer can easily compare versions or choose to revert to an older version. Git, an open source version control tool for managing changes to source code. Git repository, all the files and directories that will be tracked by the version control system, including metadata. Each user will interact with a complete copy locally and push files to the hosted versions to share changes. Git commit, that's where changes are added to the Git repository. Pushing to a repository, copying those changes stored via commit from a local repository to a hosted one. Forking a registry or repository, creating a copy of an existing repository. So these terms may or may not be, obvious at this point. Some of you may have developed before, and they are, and some of you may not, and they aren't. But it doesn't mean you can't walk through this stuff. The only thing is, you should be careful to follow the steps that are in this guide, and make sure you clean up after yourself and things of that nature. Hopefully, we can do all those things together. You get a chance to see how I do them, and you can follow the steps. If you do have questions, please feel free to leave a comment. Or maybe, I'm just learning this with you in some ways, so maybe I say something wrong or do something that could be done better or more efficiently. Please feel free to update this video in the comments, and we can try to figure out what one can do better. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the first thing we're going to do. Click this button, and it says fork the starter repo. Okay, so number one, in a new browser tab, navigate to GitHub and make sure you are logged into your account. Well, we should have a GitHub account. If you don't, pause it here, log into GitHub, and create an account. Hopefully, at this point, you have an account. And what you're going to do then is, let's see, let's go back actually, and it'll tell us. In that same tab, open this AWS Elastic Beanstalk Express JS sample repo. So we'll click it. Let's just take a look at what they have here. Okay, so now we're in AWS's repository, not our own. You can see by AWS samples. I guess they probably have a bunch of samples. I haven't actually gone and looked, but let's go and click it anyway. And here are some of the different samples they have for you to be able to take. We can kind of look around and see them all, but that's not really here or there for us. We just care about this one, right? So AWS has this code, and what we can do is fork it. And I think it's here, maybe not. Hold on. Oh, there it is, fork. So we'll click this. And for you, you're going to create a fork. I already have it, so I can just go to here where my code exists after I've forked it. Okay, so you should now see the AWS code forked in your environment. As you see, AWS Elastic Beanstalk Express JS sample forked from AWS samples, ... So it's here for me, and I've done this before a few times, so you can see that those that are familiar with this environment can see that I've actually messed around with it a little bit beforehand. But it doesn't matter because we're just playing around together. Hopefully it doesn't matter. In some sense, maybe it would have been better if I had done this with you so you guys could see some of the mistakes I made. Okay, so push a change to your new repo. Okay, so to do that, we'd go to this repository and choose the green code button near the top of the page. Okay. To clone the repository using HTTPS, confirm that the heading says clone with HTTPS. So you should see clone HTTPS and then some web URL here, and that's a URL to your specific repository. Choose the white button with a clipboard icon, on it, to the right of the URL. So they're talking about this guy, and that's basically copying that link. Okay, so I'll just continue walking through the steps, and then after I've walked through them, I'll show you guys myself doing them in a terminal of my own. But first of all, if you're on a Mac or a Linux computer, open your terminal. If you're on Windows, launch git bash. I'm using Anaconda prompt. It really doesn't matter as long as you have git installed. So I'm using git for my Anaconda prompt. If you have a git installed on your computer, they're saying you could run it from the git bash application. But basically what they want you to do is get the code from the website to your computer. And the way you do that is by calling this here, but with your username. It's equivalent to basically just pressing this button. No, this is from AWS, but from here. As you see, when you do the copy to the clipboard, you'll have it. And then that's this command over here. Good. And then in the new folder, you'll create a folder. Let's see. Oh, you're going to run this, and it's going to pull down a folder, and that folder is going to be called AWS Elastic Beanstalk Express JS Sample. What they want you to do is go into that folder, and then with a text editor, open this app.js that exists within that repository. Let's see if we can find it over here. So here's our repository. You'll be looking at it from your computer. I'm just looking at it from this browser right now. And there's this file called app.js. They want you to go in here, and they want you to make a change to it. Okay, so then we'll go back here. After you make a little change to it, the change they want you to make is say something like hello world, and we'll do this together in a second. And then they want you to just then send it back from your computer to the repository. How do you do that? Well, you do a git add, git commit, just like this. You can copy these lines, probably copy them one by one. Do this one first, do that one second with an enter after them, and then this one third, and you should be able to push to the repository. Okay, let's do this together, and let's see how it. Okay, so we're at the command prompt now, and we're going to go ahead and go through the steps. But as I said before, I've done this before, so it may not. So basically, I have the repository already, but what I'll do is I'll remove it using this command. You don't have to worry about it because you probably don't have this repository or this project in your, or this folder in your on your computer at this point. So I'm going to remove mine. So now we're at the same place, and I do an ls and I don't have it. So remember that first command we're going to use? Well, I copied it to the clipboard, and then I hit enter, and hopefully I'm pulling it from the repository, and it says, hey, we can't find it. But remember, I should have pulled it from the other place. This doesn't have my username, my git username. I think my git username is, let's put it in here. And let's try it again. Okay, now it looks like that was success, and there's our folder. So we'll go inside it just like they asked us to, AWS, okay? And we do an ls, and there are different code or different files. This is the one they want us to update. So I use a project, a application called Vim, but you can use Notepad, you could use Visual Code, whatever editor you want. But I'm going to open it up like that. And when I do, I'm going to change this, like they said. Now yours says something different, but remember, I've done this before. Okay, so I'm going to change mine to hello world, just like it asked us to do. I'm going to close the application and save it. And when I do that, I should, now they didn't show you this command, but you can do git status, and you can see that it says that I've modified that file app.js. So what will I do? It said to do a git add app.js, and then git commit -m, which means add a message to our commit. And our message is going to say change message. Okay, it's saying that it has added this one file, it had one new line, and it had one old line. So it changed the old line with the new line. All right, and then we're going to see if we can push it to the repository. Please work. Okay, working so far? Good, it worked. Now, I have Git set up. You may not have it set up yet. Take your time getting it set up. If you have it set up correctly, it should look something like that. Okay, so this is what it used to say. Hello, AWS CI world. And that's a message I had. But if I refresh this page, it should be updated with my new command. Remember, I typed in hello world a second ago. Um, so it went from the old message to the new message, and I moved that code up to the repository. Okay, now let's see. Is that all they wanted us to do? Oh, okay. So we can test our changes. How do I do that? In your browser, open the GitHub window. Okay, I kind of did that already. And we saw when we chose this app.js file, the contents were changed to include the new message. Hopefully you got that far. And the next step is going to be this deploy web app. So let's just see what they say that we should be doing here. So the service, the AWS service that we'll be using is called AWS Elastic Beanstalk. And we talked about this a little earlier. Let's see what it says. It's a compute service that makes it easy to deploy and manage applications on AWS without having to worry about the infrastructure that runs them. You will use Create Web App Wizard to create an application and launch an environment with the AWS resources needed to run your application. In subsequent modules, you will be using this environment and your continuous delivery pipeline to deploy the Hello World web app created in Module 1. So remember how we just did Hello World? Hopefully there's going to be an application that's going to use that Hello World. Okay, what you will accomplish. So we're going to configure this AWS Elastic Beanstalk environment. We're going to deploy a sample web application to AWS Beanstalk, and then we're going to test it. So there's some key concepts. I won't read them all to you. Feel free to read them on your own. Some of you may be familiar, some may not. Again, I feel like the best way to learn is by doing, but of course, the best way to support your learning when you're doing is to read over these concepts. Okay, so configure an AWS. Let's just look at what we're going to do first, and then we'll do it. We're going to configure an AWS Elastic Beanstalk app. What does that mean? Well, we'll go to their service from our AWS account. We'll choose Create Application. We will choose Web Server Environment under the Configure Environment heading. In the text box, under the heading application name, enter DevOps Getting Started, just like you see here. So we chose Web Server Environment. So I guess it needs some information to know how to build infrastructure around our application. And we're going to name this thing so we can reference it in the future. If we, like maybe you have a bunch of these different configurations, so you're going to have a different name for each of them. In this case, this is just a tutorial, so we're going to give it some tutorial-like name, and they call it DevOps Getting Started. Of course, when that gets created, then it'll create this for us. Manage platform, and the platform we're using meaning what code did we choose to write this in? In this case, it's Node.js. Got to be honest, I don't use Node.js. So this is a good example of someone without a lot of experience with this particular computer programming language doing the tutorial, but not having a lot of experience with that computer programming language. Having said that, I have a great deal of experience with a lot of different computer programming languages. But so it may feel a little more comfortable for me. Not sure. We'll just keep walking through this. Hopefully it makes sense. Of course, like I said, if it doesn't, leave some comments, and hopefully I can help, or other people who see this could help. We're going to do a sample application. We're going to click next. All right. We're going to go through here, and I could read through all this, but basically we want to, like they say here, so when we click next, we're going to get a window like this. We're going to choose use an existing service role. We're going to choose an EC2 instance profile. Here we're going to have to create this. If you don't have one already, I created this. This was a little weird, but if you don't have it, what you're going to do is follow the steps here in this create IAM role for EC2 instance profile. Basically, this is the way it works. These services are going to be called automatically by AWS. And AWS wants to make sure that you give AWS permission to use your account to create these services. So basically, when you do this, you have to be kind of careful to make sure that you're creating these environments, configuring them such that you know how they're being used by this AWS automatic process. So having said that, you can trust this tutorial and you should trust that this tutorial is done correctly. And for the most part, if you understand what you're doing, and if you're learning, these are situations where AWS is trying to help you learn. They don't want you to incur costs or do things that would hurt yourself because it would hurt them, because they want you to learn this stuff, so they want you to be good at it. And it's a topic for another video, but basically they believe that their services will help you do the things you want more so than not using their services. So anyway, their goal should be similar to our goal, and that is for us to learn, not to incur costs. Okay, so we'll then click skip to review, submit, and eventually our environment will be launched. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. Okay, I'm logged into my AWS account. Over here in the top right corner, I already see that I'm in Oregon. I want to change this to US East 1 because that's basically the availability zone, as they call it in AWS, that I think is most familiar to me, and it's the one where I kind of like to work out of. So the first thing that the tutorial asked us to do, if I recall, was to go to Elastic Beanstalk. So here it is. Click on that. They want us to create a new application and click here. Let's see. So I haven't actually done this in this account before, so this could be good. They want us to do DevOps Getting Started was the name here. So I'm just going to copy and paste it over here. There it goes. This got filled in for us. It's a web server application, which was already chosen. I'm going to go down here. What platform are we using? Remember, this is Node.js, which is the computer programming language. And then sample application, which is already here. Single instance, key here in the parentheses is this should be free tier eligible. So if you have a free tier account, then this shouldn't charge us. Okay, so we'll click next, simple as that. Come down here, choose an existing service role, or use an existing service role. We got AWS Beanstalk service role. And so I have a profile already created that gives a process run by AWS and the ability to make and create applications on my behalf using the link that I showed before. Click next. And when we get to here, let's see, what do we want to do next? You know what? I take that back. That's all we had to do, so we'll just skip to review. You could have done that last page. I apologize. So there's nothing else that we'll do. And then we will click submit. And we should now wait for our environment to get created. So while it's getting created, let's just talk a little bit about what's going on. We just set up a configuration that tells some basic information about our application to AWS, the service in particular called Elastic Beanstalk. Using that information, Elastic Beanstalk should be able to create an application's environment such that it will be suitable to run the code that we have. So you could think about any service has to run on some computer, right? So in this case, Amazon's creating that computer. Or any application that uses a database may need a database behind it, or maybe it relies on other things that I can't think of right now. Maybe a messaging queue, but I mean, I don't want to get into too much detail here. As you know, knowing all the different resources that computer applications may use isn't part of this. But as we're waiting for this to build and just kind of talking about what we're doing here, I figured that might as well kind of talk about some of the details. All right, so let's see. It looks like it's updating, health pending, platform state supported. I think we're good. Let's just go back one right here and see if okay, still pending. I'm not sure, I can't really remember exact. As I said, I'm kind of learning this with you, but I think we're waiting for that green bar, environment successfully launched. So right now it's kind of thinking, takes a few minutes as it says. Maybe I'll just pause here and we can come back when it's green. Okay, so we saw the congratulations, and we will go to the next step. Okay, so the next part of this is going to be to create a build project. So we're going to use code build for that, and as we said before, we're just going to read a couple lines actually to refresh our memory. Code build is an AWS service to build source code previously stored in your GitHub repository. So AWS Code Build is a fully managed continuous integration service that compiles source code, runs tests, and produces software's packages that are ready to deploy. So key concepts down here, I won't read them. Let's just take a look at some of the things that we're going to be doing. Just kind of open all these so I don't forget to look at any of them. Okay, so this is how we'll set up our code build. Oh, that didn't work. First, we will create a new code build application, go to this code build service, create the project, give it a name. Here's kind of the things we want to fill in. Down here, we want to make sure we get this Linux, although I think what I was showing was Linux 2. We want to make sure that the runtime is this Linux 2 down here, but I think version could change, and in our case, the version is updated since this has been written, and so on and so forth. All right, so we'll look on to the next one. Looks like we're going to update the build command. This tells it how to build an application, apparently. Like I said before, I don't know Node.js, so I'm just kind of going to copy it and paste it, and hopefully it works. And then finally, we can test it. Okay, so let's go ahead and give it a shot. Okay, here we are, back again. And what it asks us to do now is to create a new code build project. So let's do that. We'll go here, and we'll go to code build. Click on that. Now we should be in the AWS code build service. Hopefully I deleted my last one. Good. Create a new project. And we're just going to follow the steps. Hopefully you have the steps open on a browser next to you. And we'll start with right here. Our project name, I'm just going to copy and paste it over. Build DevOps. Getting started. Paste. Boom. And then our provider, I think that's GitHub. There we go. And our repository is the repository that we forked right there. Let's see. Oh, maybe some setup there. Can't remember. Let's see. So I'm already connected to GitHub, but some of the steps kind of talk about how one would connect so that you can see it. Anyway, so hopefully when you follow those steps, you're able to connect, and your environment will be able to be accessed here. So you see over here, it's North Virginia. We want to make sure that the availability zone is the same for every single one. North Virginia is the one used in the example, I believe. Actually, I think they mess up and they do Oregon and North Virginia. But for our purposes and for your purposes, we need to keep them the same, either North Virginia, Oregon, or whatever availability zone you are choosing to use. Okay, so next, I think that is about it. Take that back. That is not about it. There are other things we need to do. Let's go down here. I think this is all looking good. Actually, I think it's all filled in for us. We want Amazon Linux. We want the latest image. Everything looks good so far, from what I can tell. I think for you it's a new one, maybe? Can't remember. New service role, existing one. Yeah, I think for us, since I've done this before, I have to use an existing service role. For you, you'll use a new one. Okay, and then I think that's about it. As you see, I'm a little rusty already, having done this before. So we'll go to the next part of it, and it says it wants us to add this to, let's see if we can find it. Okay, they want us to, this build spec, they would like us to replace what they have with what we have here. And this is where I was talking about, well, I don't know Node.js, but I assume that this builds the application. So we'll go ahead and do that. And that might be basically it here. So from here, we're going to do create build project. Hopefully I kind of went through this kind of fast. I hope I didn't miss anything. All right, and then we have it here. So from here, let us test this by clicking start build, and let's just see what happens. In progress, here are our logs down here. Click on that so we can see our logs better, I guess. Boom, 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 boom. It's building it, giving us a lot of log statements. Most of them probably don't matter. We want to see a lot of succeeds. We don't want to see errors, basically, kind of as you would have expected. Uh-oh, these don't look good. Let's see. Old lock file was created with old version of npm. Okay. Succeeded? I wonder if this is okay. It says succeeded. Let's assume this is okay, although I'm not 100% sure, as this doesn't look 100% right. Moderate severity vulnerability. To address all issues, run this to fix. I don't know. It says success up here. Let's give it a shot for now. It could not, it may be wrong and I need to go back and do this at some point. All right, so we'll assume that this is working for now and we'll go to the next step. Okay, we just did the build project. We believe it's working. It may not be. We may have to do it again. We'll see. And we'll go to part four. And in part four, this is going to be the continuous delivery pipeline. This is using the service code pipeline. This is managing all the other services, if you guys recall. We won't kind of look at the intro too much, but go ahead and feel free to give it a gander, and we'll just kind of look at some of the steps that we're going to do in a moment here. We're going to go to this new service. We're going to create a pipeline. We're going to give it this name. We are going to provide GitHub as the place to get the code. Remember, it has to pull GitHub from, or pull the code from someplace, and in our example, it's pulling it from GitHub. We're going to want it to authorize, let's see, code suite. So I guess we'll see what that means in a second here. But basically, we want to pull the code, I think is what that's doing. Here, we want to build it. And then here, there's going to be a stage to deploy it, read over these things. I'm just going to kind of browse through them semi-quickly, but let's just see if we can look at the highlights real quick, sorry. Create new pipeline. This is going to be pulling the code from GitHub. This step here is going to be building it using code build. Here, we're going to deploy it into our Elastic Beanstalk environment. Remember, we did that earlier. It says US West Oregon, but we should be using North Virginia if you're following along with me. And we'll create the pipeline, and then we'll watch it execute. So let's give it a shot. Okay, so now we'll do step 4, create delivery pipeline, and let's go ahead and go to the code pipeline service. Okay, we are here, and now that we are here, we will follow the steps. Let's see, so they'll like us to create a pipeline first. And from there, we'll give it a name. The name that the tutorial gives us to name our pipeline is Pipeline DevOps Getting Started. New service role already selected. Next button now clicked. Okay, let's see. Didn't like that. Oh, obviously, you guys probably knew. Me, mine already exists, so I'll go ahead and go back to my existing role. Good. Here, GitHub version 1, connect to GitHub, see if it makes us sign in. It may or may not. Didn't, since we've done it before, I guess. We will use this application from our repository, branch main, then we'll click next. Let's see, so of course we use code build here. There was Jenkins there, that's another build server, but we're using AWS's version of it. And let's see, what else would they like us to do here? Do we put in this? Okay, yep, okay. And let's see. Next. Okay. Then here, as we follow the steps, it's going to have us put in AWS Beanstalk. This is going to be the configuration. This is the service we use to set up the configuration for deployment. Region North Virginia as expected. Application name from there was DevOps Getting Started as we named earlier, and this was our environment. And then click next, and I think they want us to create the pipeline. We will create it. Perfect. We'll let it run, and hopefully what we'll look at the details, but what's going on is AWS Pipelines is pulling the code from our GitHub repository. It was able to do that, so that was successful. Now it's going to build it using AWS Code Build, like we set up earlier. I think it was module 2, maybe 3. I think it was module 3, or the previous module. And takes a minute, but it should build soon. All right, and then it's going to deploy down here. Hopefully that happens without a problem. Okay. Deploying soon, hopefully. well, while that's happening, we can kind of look at the details. I haven't found a good place to find logs here, but they do give some details. Maybe we could click around. Maybe there were more logs in GitHub that we could use, but basically, when we see the succeed, we're able to pull it. Down here, code build. This one does give some logs, so it does show the build. And again, as we scroll down, it succeeded, so that's good. Status succeeded, that's what we're looking for. And then, did I go too far? I think I did. View details. Now I'll never find my way back. Hopefully this is it. Come on. There we go. And it has deployed. Good. We looked at that. We could look at the deployment. We won't do that right now. We'll just go forward with the next stage of the lab. Okay, here we are. We just finished the finalize pipeline and test. So we'll go to start module for the next module. And as you see, we're on the finalize pipeline and test. So we're going to go through the whole thing. And I think we're going to create one more step maybe in here. Let's look here. We're going to continue to stick with AWS code pipeline. We're going to add a review stage, so a man or a person in the middle, I should say, that's going to have to manually allow the application to proceed. And we're going to change the code after that so that we can see it all work from beginning to end. And then after that, if everything works, we want to be able to see our application running in the end. This could be kind of fun, right? And this is what we have here. Let's look at the steps. So we have AWS code pipeline, right? It manages this whole thing. We created it so far. We don't have this manual proven yet, but we're going to. Here we are. We're a user. We're going to change the code, hit it in, or add it to get to the GitHub repository. Sorry, there's also one called GitLab that I use quite often also. So if I have said GitLab and said GitHub, I meant GitHub. Once that happens, code pipeline is going to build it automatically. It's going to add this manual approved process where a human has to go in and say, yes, go ahead and deploy it. If they get a yes here, code pipeline will deploy it, and then hopefully we can go see it running. And then after that, we got the cleanup resources so we don't end up getting charged for stuff that we don't want to get charged for. Also, if we're not using stuff, we want to make sure that we're not using resources anyway, right? We want to be efficient, and a lot of this has to do with, a lot of AWS has to do with being thoughtful of the environment and the resources you use, right? So, okay, so what does that look like? Well, we're going to delete Elastic Beanstalk. We're going to delete our code pipeline. We're going to, let's see, the application, the code pipeline. So Elastic Beanstalk, that application will get deleted, code pipeline, delete it. I don't ever remember us using an S3 bucket, but hopefully if we did, we better delete that. Uh-oh, I could be in trouble here if I did things that I shouldn't have done not knowing. This is a good example, okay? And then we'll go here and AWS code build, and we'll delete that too. All right, but I don't see any S3 stuff in here, so I have a feeling that maybe this is boilerplate. But we'll see, we'll see. All right, so let's move forward to the final step. Alrighty, so the next thing we'll do is stay in code pipeline, but we're going to add a manual stage down here. So let's see how we do that. I may need to go back here, click on this guy. We may need to edit it somehow. Edit. Okay, and then we'll go down here, and in between build and deploy, we'll add a stage. Add stage. Done this before. We'll call it review. Add stage. And after we add a stage, the review stage, we'll add an action to it. This action we'll call manual review, and what we want is a human in the loop when we to accept whether or not we want to deploy or not. So by saying manual approval means there's a stage that's going to request a human to go in and either accept this build for deployment or not. So we'll click done. Alrighty, and save. Good. Save. And let's see. Now, next we'll do a new push, and then we will see the whole pipeline run from beginning to end. Okay, here we are in the editor, hopefully, and we are going to make a change to this application app.kit. So for me, I use the editor Vim. You can use an editor of your choice, and I will say hello, instead of hello world, I will say hello hello AWS, hello AWS. What was the name of this lab? I think it was called CICD for continuous integration and continuous delivery, but I think they just called it continuous delivery. So maybe I do CD. Hello, CD world, CD pipeline world. All right, I will save that file. Okay, and I will go ahead and push it to the repo. Remember, we can check to see what that looks like. So instead of going back, let's just actually, I know the command, so you can follow them. We'll do git status, and we should see that this app.js has been modified. So we'll do git add app.js, git commit, update message again, and then we'll do git push. That means this is sending it from our computer to GitHub, and we'll just take a look to make sure that it's there. Okay, here we are. Let's go ahead and click app.js. Let's see what it looks like now. Hello, AWS CD pipeline world. I don't know if that makes sense, but you guys get what I'm saying. And the update is here. Now what we want to do is make sure that it's running. So we'll go over here. Let's see, is our pipeline running? Oh, I think it is. Let's see, is that right? Maybe not. Sorry, I don't think it is running. I mean, it is running, but this wasn't the right place to see it. So it's in progress. View details. Ah, no, we want to see it. How do we see it? Click there. Okay, so it's building. We got past, I think, no, this isn't right. This is not right. So is it queued? Let's see here. So we go to pipelines. It says it's in progress. View details. View details. Succeeded in progress. How do we watch this one? Okay, I click on this ID. Maybe that's what I need to do. Sorry, I'm sure there's a super simple way of doing this that you know of that I don't. Okay. 1 minute ago, we were able to pull that new code. So if you recall, we just deployed the code, right? The new code, and we saw that it changed. It pulled it automatically 1 minute ago, and just now the code built. But before it can deploy it, it wants us to review it. It wants a human in the loop. We just added this this part of it, so we will approve. Of course, we could reject it. This is a good way of making sure that there's someone in the loop to deny or allow any new updates for deployment. So waiting for approval. Didn't we just approve it 1 minute ago? Review. Approved. Good. So now deployment is in progress. After this thing's deployed, we should be able to see our web server, or our web application running, I should say, on the web server that was provided to us by Elastic Beanstalk. In progress, and that is if everything worked out. I am a little worried about the build. It said it was successful, although it seemed like they gave us some weird warnings. Usually that could mean that it doesn't work. We shall see. Okay, view details. What do we need to do now? All right, so to be able to see whether it's working or not, we will, let's see, we'll go to this deploy stage here, view details. Okay, nothing there. I could be wrong. I don't know what I'm doing here. All right, let's go back. Maybe not here. We will go to, let's go here to our pipelines. And then is there a URL or something? Let's click here. Okay. Do they provide a URL somewhere for us to go to? Where do we go? So let's see. Select the code, select the pipeline named pipeline DevOps getting started. Okay, yeah, review. When the review stage is switched to blue, yeah, comments approved, so we did all that. Select the AWS Elastic Beanstalk link in the deploy stage. Okay, click the link. There we go. And then they want us to click this URL with the env here. Let's try it. Oh, there it is. Hey, our application's running. And it says it's called Hello AWS CD Pipeline World. Our statement that doesn't make sense, but makes sense to us. All right, guys, that was awesome. We'll go back to clean up, and then we're done. We did the lab. Okay, let's first delete the AWS Beanstalk application. So to do that, we'll just go back to applications, and we should be able to click this button, actions, delete application. Now they want you to confirm this. By confirming it, they would like us to let's see, proceed with this action. The following environment will be terminated. Enter the name of the application to confirm. I think the name of the application is this guy. Okay, now to my recollection, this guy takes a few minutes for it to show up that it is deleted, but you should be able to see that it is being deleted, and eventually it will be deleted, but you might see this here for about 30 minutes. So we'll skip ahead to the next part, which is the delete the code pipeline. So to do that, we'll go here, code pipeline, and here we'll click this guy, as it wants us to delete the, or maybe click that button. We'll delete the pipeline. In this case, it wants us to type in the word delete, so they know that we're being careful not to delete something we don't want to delete. There we go. Delete it. That went pretty quickly. Then we go to S3. I didn't think there was anything in S3, but let's just take a look. I could be wrong. It'd be embarrassing if there is, but like I said, we're learning together, right? All right, so we go here. Oh my goodness, there are. Hopefully I didn't get myself in much trouble. So what I'm going to do is can I click them all? I'll click them one at a time. Like I said before, I kind of did this a couple times on my own before, and you can kind of see the times I did them. So I'm going to go ahead and delete. They don't want it. This bucket's not empty. Okay, so we'll empty the bucket. And then permanently delete. To confirm deletion type, permanently delete. Okay, here. The good thing is, I've been kind of checking my account, and they haven't charged me, so you can kind of make mistakes a little bit, it looks like, and get away with not being charged with this free account, luckily. So this is why we're learning, right? To be able to do these things in such a way that we don't get charged for it when we're actually using a real account. All right, so let's click here. We're going to do a delete empty. Can we empty it? No objects found in here. Okay, good. Permanently delete. This is probably the one we already did, and it just hasn't gone away yet, is my guess. Yeah, because it won't even let us do that. Okay, so this is one that I made a mistake before. Remember how we were on Oregon and North Virginia? You need them all of the different services in the same availability zone. I used Oregon and North Virginia, and that's one that I messed up when I was first starting. All right, so let's go ahead and delete this bucket. Let's empty it first if there's anything there. Okay, and then we'll do permanently delete. Okay, we're able to empty that bucket. Good. And let's see, we will exit. And we'll delete the stuff from this one too. Empty. Permanently delete. Good. Oh, did we already do that one? Let me just check these. Go here, delete. Can we delete? Okay. Type this guy in. Paste. Delete that bucket. Good. All right. Now I'm feeling better. Like I'm not gonna, do something dumb. I'm glad we could learn together, hopefully. All right. So I'm gonna paste this one in. Delete the bucket. That's why you did the whole exercise, and don't stop once you've gotten everything working. You should also delete the environment. All right. So then finally we'll click this, delete, and not empty. Click this. Let's empty it. Permanently delete, yes, please. All right, paste, empty, good. And then let's just exit, and let's go ahead and delete this guy. Hopefully it'll let us delete it now. Delete, please. There we go. Ah, what? You don't have, oh shoot, I think I did this in my other account. I'll have to come back and delete this one, guys, sorry. And let's see. So finally, we'll delete the AWS code build. So we'll go there, code build. Geez, they got me on Oregon. North Virginia. I should go back and check that S3 to make sure it's North Virginia too. We'll delete this. Okay. Type delete. Okay. There we go. That's gone. And let's go back to S3 as I'm questioning the situation here. North Virginia, okay. Oregon. Yes, so there's one in both. So let's go to North Virginia. I think we still have to delete that one too, and that's from our application. I'm not sure when. Geez. All right, so I will click this radio button. I will empty it, and we'll do permanently delete. And I will paste that. Oh, no objects found in here. Okay, perfect. So then I will just delete this bucket if it'll let me. Please let me. Alrighty. Delete bucket. I don't have permission again. Okay, so it looks like there are going to be a couple buckets that I'll have to delete offline. So let's just go ahead and go to code build, or we did the code build. I think we're done here. Um, let's go here and just double check Oregon also, as the first time I did it. Had no idea what the heck I was doing. Okay, good. All right, so we're done, guys. I hope you guys had a lot of fun. It said 35 minutes, beginner level. Hopefully, me walking through it with you may help this learning process. Thanks for joining me. We'll talk to you guys next time. Bye. If you're a Mac or Linux computer, if you're on a Mac, actually, let's do this together. One sec.